pretty much anything that has to do with the local emulators. That's one of the cool things that should really help ship new versions of bigger projects. If not that the weekend one that you build and forget, but the one that you work constantly on. I need to iterate over and over. So yeah, definitely try it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm preparing another computer so I can see what you see, guys. Because last time I forgot all the times to share my screen. So now
okay. One trick is if you have two different Chrome accounts, you can open the same meeting in both of them and just mute and turn camera off in one, and then you see the meeting. Or you can use your phone. I actually use my phone for video and my computer to see the meetup.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
I'll let everyone know I'm going to be muting microphones. So just generally, if you want to talk, you'll probably have to unmute yourself because I'll be going through and just muting people as they come in.
Okay. Okay, so now it's only more and more people. So how many people do you think will join today in total? Are there any more people we wait to join, or?
I see a lot of regulars here, the people I would expect to show. Ken he's pretty committed. But we had Linda, I think 30-ish people say that they were on. And I think is 6 o'clock the kickoff time, or is it 5:30?
I think the kickoff is 5
in the beginning.
It's 5.
Is it 5? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess we're kicked off.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I think that's it.
I have a couple people still entering here. I'm adding them in.
wow.
All right, but I think we can get started. Linda, do you want to present the slides you had intended, and then I can go through some of the things we talked about?
Yeah, give me just 1 second. I can do this. So window.
Okay, we still have some people joining us also.
I don't know. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
I can.
Oh, okay, perfect. I have some slides, but I don't know what we'll talk about. So that's okay.
All right. Well, I expect other people will pop in, but let's go ahead and get started. So welcome. Here we are with our Firebase Study Jam. And we have a special guest with Alex Astrum. Did I say that right, Alex?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. That's great. So we're real excited to have him with us, me especially. I was just mentioning that I'm working in Firebase right now with my job, so this stuff is very relevant. A little bit about why we're here. This is the GDG Capital Region group, and it was founded in 2016 by Jason Rotella. He's going to be joining us at 6 o'clock. He's coming in from some other commitments that he had. The other members of the group are with us. We have on the line Linda and Fausto and myself. And we'll be helping folks out as if you have questions or if you put things in the chat, we can help pass those along as Alex is giving us his information. If you stay through the entire event, we have some prizes to give away at the end. I'm going to keep that secret. Maybe it'll come out a little bit later what the prizes are. But at the end, we have what's called the name of Wheel of Names, and we'll add folks who are here with us at the end. We'll put the names in and spin the wheel, get your personal information or your email at least, and figure out how to get you the prizes that we have available. I think that's all of the housekeeping. Let's see here. Yeah, Linda, can I hand it over to you?
Yeah. So I don't know what you see, guys. I'm confused. I hope so you can see my screen. So today we have with us Alex Astrum from Firebase team at Google. Alex is a software engineer with 10... Alexa, stop. 1 second.
Oh, that's great.
I'm sorry.
I see what happened there.
I have Google and Alexa, so it's kind of difficult to deal in this house. Alex is a software engineer with 10 years plus of web and mobile development experience. Currently, he is focused on Firebase, Angular, and GCP. Outside of work, he loves games, outdoors, and music. So now I will give him the presentation and to talk a little bit about Firebase.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Before we get started, let's do one little exercise that we tried it a couple of times and I really liked how it worked out. So I'll go ahead and share screen. Okay, cool. Everybody sees that?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So this is one exercise that we had a couple of times and it really worked out. So this is a way to find out who the people we are in the meeting how if they like, what they use in Firebase, and generally just a cool way to get to know each other better. While I do a quick intro, let's go ahead and open this link and write a little bit about ourselves. Essentially, I want to figure out what level of how deep I should go into explaining technical aspects of Firebase, and also if there's anything in particular that I should talk about outside of the questions. Also, I'm looking for cool meal recipes, so if you have anything that you want to share, it would be great to hear. So let's take a few minutes and intro ourselves. I've already added a line for myself, so please, if you may, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm missing the link. Where do I find the link to the spreadsheet?
The link is right here, bit.ly, Firebase Icebreaker. Let me also copy paste in the chat, so it's easier for everyone to...
oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
There we go. Okay. I need to add a HTTP as prefix, I guess. Okay, now it's clickable. Perfect.
That's a pretty neat idea.
Does everyone see the link in the chat? I've chased it. It's working for me.
Yeah, it looks like we're getting responses coming in.
Okay, awesome. I see already a couple of responses. Cold Fusion, that's cool. Yeah, Python is one interesting language. I really loved it when I found out about it, but then I never actually got to properly learn it.
Yeah, I'm actually in the process of switching to JavaScript because for most real-world apps, it's a little more applicable than Python.
in the last probably couple of years, maybe 2-3 years, I haven't really done a lot of JavaScript, even though I've been working on web. It's mostly TypeScript nowadays that I'm doing, particularly because we at Google, at least, with our really huge code base, what we were doing with JavaScript, we were having all those JSLint enforcements and JSDocs and stuff enforced strictly, and it was still a kind of a hassle to maintain a code base with tens of thousands of files. And TypeScript, while not perfect, it just does this job a little bit better. Now, of course, I'm biased because I'm using it a lot, but I know that once I switch from JavaScript to TypeScript, probably half of my complaints about the language went away. So, if you're looking into that, give it a try. Let me know if you find it cool or it sucks for you.
Yeah, I've been hearing about it, but I haven't stopped and researched it yet.
In terms of Firebase, we support both of them. Let's say like TypeScript is, we try to support native vanilla JavaScript well, just like pretty much any other native platform we do. But then if you use a framework, you usually find some library for Firebase and probably for other similar services as well that works with it. So whichever language works for you. Okay, I see a lot of auth extensions about functions. Okay, quick question. Would you folks want for me to go into a deeper dive on Firestore? Since I'm pretty sure you already know a great deal about Firebase in general. Or should I do an intro into Firebase as well? But maybe vote in chat. Maybe.
For me, works everything you choose. It's okay. I don't know others. This is.
Okay, I see a few people who are learning Firebase, which are pretty new. So I guess what I'll do, I'll quickly present. The.
Actually, we had a
Some
small
of the general
intro.
concepts, yeah.
Alex, excuse me that I interrupt you. We had another Firebase last month, and we had a short intro. But I'm not a expert like you do, so feel free.
Maybe a quick overview would be good. Well, I think most of the people that are in here are familiar, but if you really quickly went over it, those that are new would catch up, I'm sure.
Okay. I guess what I'll do, I'll go through the overview slides, but actually I'll stop on some of the aspects that I think are more relevant to a group of people who already read what Firebase is about and want to just better understand how to use it. And then we can go a little bit deeper into security rules and what Firestore is at its essence, so that you can get immediate value and have a better understanding on when to use it and when maybe not to use it. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So let's start then. I'll start with the intro because it actually talks a little bit about all the products, and then I'm gonna stop a little bit more on the a little bit more on the security rules and Firestore. Okay, we already know what Firebase is and what it tries to do, and you've probably seen these icons. I'm going to talk a little bit about the improvements, about the second,
We cannot
about
see
the third,
your
fourth, and
screen.
fifth. Oh, you don't see my screen?
We see only this chat, right?
Okay, wait.
I don't know if you present anything. That's why I'm interrupting you.
Let me check. Yeah, I see that you're seeing the old tab. Let me try to present again. Present now, Chrome tab.
There we go.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so you probably already know, have seen these icons before. I'm going to talk a little bit, and probably you already know the icons in the first and second column. I'm going to talk a little bit about the other columns, and I'm also going to touch some of the not so obvious things about the on the building better apps, essentially on the developer product. Okay, so let's get started. So it seems like most of you are on web, and in terms of web support, we have the JavaScript native SDK, which should work across the range of products. However, if you use a higher level framework like Angular or React, I strongly encourage you to use the library specific framework. For example, in case of Angular, the reason why you want to use Angular instead of just the basic SDK library is because Angular has this Zone.js thing, which essentially overrides a bunch of the core stuff inside your DOM model and stuff. And if you don't, and when we built the Angular SDK, we took care of making sure Firebase still works with all those things happening in the background because of the framework. And if you just use the native stuff, you might have to take care of this on your own. So the first thing would be, if you use a high-level framework, especially one that has pre-compiled code before deployment, like Angular, just make sure you use the appropriate SDK plugin or library, not just the native JavaScript. Otherwise, it might run into weird issues. Okay. Now, what are we offering? So essentially, Firestore is the thing that we're going to talk most today. And it's really great for storing as a default database solution. So whenever you build a web app and you don't want to have to think about spinning up a server, that's probably the first solution Firebase-wise that you think about to use. Now, by the way, I wanted to ask, are we recording this or not? So, because I wasn't sure.
I'm recording it. I don't.
Linda, I think you
In my side,
No.
I'm recording it. I don't know, Chad, are you recording it in your side?
Thanks for the reminder. I just hit the button now. So if everyone that's on the call, just know that this is being recorded. So keep your mic muted and your face hidden if you don't want to be on camera.
I guess we can probably...
Your mic muted and your face hidden if you don't want to be on camera.
I guess we can probably stop recording once I'm done with speaking so that people are more at ease to ask questions. Okay, cool. So because we just started recording, I'll quickly sum up what I said from the beginning and then continue. Yeah. So the first
thing that is recorded since the beginning in my side.
Okay. Is it? Okay, cool. Then we'll just continue. Hopefully everything's fine. Okay, so Firestore, the default database solution that you probably want to use if you're using Firebase, unless you have some really specific use cases about which I'm going to talk in a minute. Okay, and why it's great is because it takes care of most of the hassle that you'd otherwise have to take care of yourself. And the next slide essentially just lists those things that Firestore does so well, which is synchronization, cross-platform, offline, and being a real-time solution. Okay. Before we go to the next one, let's talk a little bit about when not to use Firestore. There are probably maybe three major use cases in which probably Firestore is not a bad solution. So first one would be if you have a really simple database that you want to be real fast, as in under a second fast for updates, and you want that you want to override the data often, like multiple times a second. Then in this case, you're probably better with real-time database. So for instance, if you have an Internet of Things application in which you just send data, some sensor data, very quickly to the cloud, or if you have some kind of game in which you just bash a button multiple times, RTDB is probably better for these kind of real-time scenarios. particularly if your data is very simple, it's just a number or a couple of text entries that you can store in a JSON document. Okay. The second case where you probably want to look at another option is if you do data analytics. So if you do data mining, if you have a big amount of data that you want to process, while you can use Firestore to get the data in, it will not help you into getting those analytics out. So for that, you might use something like BigQuery. And one way to get the data from Firestore to BigQuery is using one of the really cool extensions we have. And the third case is when you have complicated business logic with multiple joins, and you need your data to be normalized and consistent at any point in time. And for this, for instance, you have a banking app in which you transfer money from one person to another. Probably for these kind of things, you might want to look into a SQL solution like SpannerDB. Pretty much for anything else, Firestore is probably a good solution. So if you don't need the analytical load, if you don't have lots of overwrites per second in the same document, and if you don't have a really complicated hierarchy of tables that you have to keep in sync all the time, Firestore is amazing. Okay. Cloud Functions. So what are they and why are they here? Cloud Function is probably if Firestore is the bread, Cloud Function is the topping or the sauce on it. It pretty much allows you to do something with the data in your database. You can do it whenever the data arrives, or you can do it whenever something else happens in the outside world. The way I see a workflow in Firebase is I will open up, create an app, the app would communicate with Firestore and read and write some data. And then I have a bunch of cloud functions that will be triggered whenever something happens. For instance, when I write something to the database, or whenever a new user is created, or whenever a third-party service notifies me. So the cloud function is the glue. It's really the cool stuff that allows Firebase to be more than just a database. One thing to remember is that Cloud Function is great. While the Cloud Function is great to get you started and start running your app, if you need to use Cloud Functions to receive user calls from customers, you might want to also take a look at the Google Cloud, since it offers way more options for doing callbacks and stuff. And while it's more complicated, it might be best suited for your use case. For most of the workflows in which you write some data and you need to process it and link it with a third party, Cloud Function is still really, really good. Okay. And the reason why it's good because you can set it to be secure, it scales automatically, and it's well integrated into with the rest of the Firebase. So it's really easy to get started, and you should be able to use it even in really big apps. Okay, and here we have a little sample of what a Cloud Functions workflow might look like. So you have your app, and then inside your app, the user logs in, they get access to the Firestore. They do an action, for instance, they do a purchase as the data is being saved to Firestore. You can also use analytics to have a better insight into this action. And then for example, you need to connect this with a third party for processing. And that's where Cloud Functions come into place. They're using under the hood, they can use under the hood a pub sub from a GCP in order to plan those messages, and they will scale automatically. So the more customers you have that need that code to be executed, the more instances will spin up automatically. And you will only pay for the stuff you're using. So if your Cloud Function is not really doing anything, it's not costing you anything at all. The reason, one thing to keep in mind is because we have to on-demand spin up servers as your usage grows, there will be a slight delay. So if you don't want the delay, the solution would be to to use GCP to reserve those resources up front. In most of the workflows in which you write some data into the database and then the cloud function processes it, these would be pretty seamless. So normally you won't really have to bother about configuring that manually. Okay, Firebase Auth. Auth and security rules, that's the thing that makes the serverless environment serverless. It's what allows us to add security, what allows us to recognize the users when they come back, and that's in principle the backbone of the entire system. And while Firebase can work anonymously, I strongly encourage everyone to at least use anonymous auth if you don't want to ask your users to provide an identity. At least use anonymous auth and just use that when you set up your rules in Firestore. This way you can close your database from the outside world, so it would not be vulnerable for scanners and the likes. And at the same time, your users' workflow is still very simple. They don't really have to do anything extra. And this is all it's all pretty transparent for the user. Okay, and if you want more than anonymous auth, you have all of these providers. I think I don't remember if we added any new ones recently, but I know that we added quite a bunch of them last year, and even if the provider you want is not supported in this list, you can do a custom auth as well. Okay. Cloud storage is a place where you store your binary data. So pretty much anything that's too big to fit in a database, or anything you don't really care about being indexed and searchable, should live here. And the way to secure it is similar to Firestore, and it also works pretty well on devices. It also works offline in some cases. It's pretty much all you'd need for uploading, downloading workflows. Next thing is Firebase hosting. So hosting is specifically for web. It's what it is, a place for you to store your static assets, not more, not less. And it has all the stuff you'd expect, like custom domains, like rewriting rules, and SSL and CDN, of course. Okay, another thing that you can use the hosting, Firebase hosting for, is to trigger your cloud workflows, which is probably quite obvious. Okay, MLKit is not relevant for web, so I'll just skip it. Okay, okay. So the second step, the second column, it's about stability. So Crash Analytics is primarily a product for mobile, so I won't talk a lot about it on web. However, I will talk a little bit about performance. So on mobile, performance and stability go hand in hand. On web, the crashes are not something that people are usually looking into. However, performance is something important. So probably this is one of the things that you want to look at as soon as you're ready to ship an app. If you're not sure if you have, when you want to figure out if your app is really a delightful experience for your users, it's great for you to use a mix of analytics and performance to just figure out how fast things happen for your users and are they actually experiencing any inconveniences. I won't talk too much about it. It's just something to keep in mind, that it's great to take a look at this before shipping the app to too many users. It's quite surprising, the findings we might see once the app is run in a different environment than our developer machines. Okay, Test Lab, it's for mobile, and it's not very relevant to web either. Okay, analytics. In general, analytics is probably one of the things that you want to have in your Firebase project enabled, unless there's a really good reason not to. And why would you want analytics? It's because it does a bunch of things. It figures out how the users interact with the app. It also allows you to do other business workloads later on if you decide to. Also, it allows you to export data to BigQuery so you can do business analysis almost for free. So there's lots and lots of different value-added things that might be obvious later on and not really visible at the beginning of the life cycle of an app, but something to keep in mind. Also, you can turn it off if your app needs that privacy setting to be turned off, as in no tracking. Cloud messaging. It's primarily great for targeted ad campaigns. It's also good whenever you need to announce a new feature to your users. It's a great tool that goes hand in hand with analytics after you launch. Remote config, I use it sometimes for incremental rollouts of new features. It's a cool way to send changes to only a subset of your users without having to write that logic in on your own. Dynamic links, I would say it's mostly useful for either mobile first projects or for projects in a hybrid environment. For web, it's not probably as valuable. Okay, and A/B testing, it is what it is. It essentially allows you to do to test 2 or more variants in your product. Prediction is something that we usually target. We used to target mostly mobile developers. I'll just talk very quickly about it. So essentially, predictions uses machine learning to try to predict an action that a customer will take based on other customers that took this action before. It's primarily useful in funnels and conversions workflows on apps. Probably not that useful on web at the moment, but nevertheless, keep an eye on it. Okay, so this is the intro to Firebase. Any questions?
No, that's great.
Okay. I hope I didn't put too many details. I just wanted to cover some of the things that are not obvious from the documentation and that I sometimes get asked about. Just to sum it up, each product has a specific use case, and there are a few specific stories that we try to do really well. So Firebase might not be perfect for everything across the board, but it should be pretty good for most popular scenarios that a developer and a product manager will have to go through in order to launch a new product, be it a web or a native app. And whenever you get, yeah.
I noticed that when Firebase first was being made public, the web app part of it, that's newer, right? And you were just sort of talking about the differences between how you would approach Firebase if you wanted to make a mobile app. And it seems like there's been more attention given to the web app side of it. What do you think about that? Is there anything to just keep in mind or to think about as you're approaching Firebase from those two perspectives?
Yeah, so that's absolutely right. That initially Firebase, actually, let me do a little bit of history. So initially Firebase was just a database. That's why it's named Fire and Base. It was a database that was really, really fast, as in real time fast. Once it became a more of a wider product, the focus was primarily on native apps, iOS and Android. And as it grew, there was more and more demand for web. So that's when we started to pay a lot of attention on making the experience delightful for web developers as well. In the last year, however, we also started supporting gaming workflows. Like if you ever did game development, you probably know that game development is quite a bit different from app development in terms of tooling and practices and so on. And that's one of the things that we try to focus. Like right now, web is very well supported. and we're still working on polishing things out and adding more functionality for the web. But web has been around for a while, so probably will find answers to most of your questions around web on Stack Overflow. If you do gaming development, it's a little bit newer there, so not a lot of questions are already covered on Stack Overflow. But there is quite a bit of information out there and quite a few SDKs around. And that's probably what you want to consider when you start a new project. If you're not flexible around the frameworks you're using and the environment, you probably just want to check how well supported the environment is in Firebase. However, most of the time you'll find that it's really well supported. And even if it's not, you can usually still use the RESTful APIs, which in my opinion take away some of the magic that Firebase comes with if you just have to call those APIs directly. But sometimes that's exactly what you want. For instance, if you're doing a lower level, if you're doing an IoT device and you don't really want to load it with libraries, usually just want a simple API call and that's it. Or if you're doing a highly optimized web app, you also might not want to load the entire SDK, instead just hit on an endpoint. So there are some workloads in which you probably would not be taking advantage of the SDK, but most of the time it will work for you out of the box.
That's great stuff. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, maybe for another 5 minutes I'll cover. Then for another 5 minutes I'll cover security rules and a little bit more in-depth look at Firestore, and that would be it for today. Then I'll let you get on with coding. Okay, so a few things. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Any other questions before we jump into the deep waters of Firestore inner workings?
I see the chat. We don't have any questions so far, so I think you covered it very well. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So a more in-depth look at Firestore. Okay. If you never use Firestore, you probably don't know that already that it's a collection type of collection/document type of database. What this means is that each entity in Firestore is a document, and the documents are grouped together into collections. This Firestore, just like RTDB, doesn't have a schema. It's a schemaless database, so you can write whatever you want in the documents. There are a couple of supported data types like strings, numbers, booleans.
1 second? Yeah. Are you sharing some slides?
Yes, I'm sharing some slides, and probably that is not working again. Let me share it again.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So each entity is a document with a bunch of fields. We have a few supported data types, and we don't have a schema. The documents are grouped into collections. Okay. Now, collections can also have sub-collections. Yeah. Collection can have sub-collections, and this allows quite a bit of flexibility on how to organize the data. Also, the sub-collections are searchable either individually or as a group. So here we probably come with the first tip. Whenever you try to organize the data in Firestore for your project, the main question you want to answer to is how will you access the data? How do you plan to query it? How do you want to read it? And that will probably determine the way you'll organize it. For instance, if you will do a lot of searches over some documents, it might be worse to have them all in the same collection. Also, if for instance, if some other documents don't really have a lot of meaning without their parent. For instance, you have a user, and the user has a bunch of activities or a bunch of posts, and you don't really want to list all the posts. You only care about the posts for a certain user. Then it's worth putting those posts in a subcollection in the user, because that's what you'd most often use in your app. So the question you want to answer is essentially, what am I going to use this data for? And that's how you structure it. And it's okay for the data to not be normalized. If you have a duplication in your database, and as long as you have a workflow, for example, a cloud function that will take care of synchronizing the data whenever you change one entity, you're perfectly fine. So as long as your workflow means a lot of reads and just a few writes, you're well suited with Firestore, and it's okay to not normalize data. Just organize it in a way that is easy for you to query. So that is the first tip. Also, when you organize the data, you have to remember a few limits we have. So first one would be the size of the document. You want to keep the document nice and small, not too small as to have to run many queries and have lots of read operations, which you have a limit if you want to keep the usage free, but also not huge enough, because whenever you query a document, the entire document is sent over the pipe to you. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Keep the entities nicely small and logically together. Another thing to remember is that we have a limit of the number of indexes on documents. We don't have a limit on the number of documents or how many values we have in those indexes, but we have a limit of the number of different indexes. So it's essentially a limit on how many fields you have in the same document. If you have documents with lots and lots of fields, one thing that you want to remember is to maybe turn off indexing for the fields that have a lot of subfields. Because if you don't, you might run into the limit of indexes. Most of the time, that will not happen. Probably for 99% of the projects we have on Firebase, this will not happen. And the last thing to remember, we have a 1 query per second maximum sustained document write rate. What this means is, if you override the same document over and over and over again, you'll see that after a while, those writes will fail. And the reason is that Firestore is not optimized for overwrites, because that essentially means an index rebuild. What it is optimized to do is for appends. So if you need to have lots and lots of QPSs, because, for instance, you just launch a cool streaming site and you have a million of users who hit your streaming servers at the same time, what you need to do in this case, just create new documents. Don't override the same document, just create new ones. And as long as these documents are, and that should probably be enough to fix your issue. So if you have a high load, you want to be careful not to override the same document. And that's the main thing you want to keep in mind. And if you need to do merging, data analytics with the data in Firestore, you should either use cloud functions if the load is small, and if you have big analytical loads, you're probably best off to just export all that data into BigQuery and use that. These are probably the only cases in which I would think about rewriting the document, like either for just a big influx of customers, or when you need to do analytical stuff. Okay, so these are the constraints. That's pretty much all I wanted to tell you about the limits. There are also a few other things to keep in mind, like how you can query the data, how you shouldn't query the data. This is well documented. One thing to remember is that Firestore is not a SQL database, so you want to get the same querying capabilities. That's why it's so important that you store the data in a format that's easy for you to query later on. Okay, so this is on queries, and I want to talk a little bit about security roles. Are there any questions about queries before I jump into security?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
The app that I'm using, and I started actually before Firestore was available, so I'm using real-time database, and I think actually that was the right choice, anyways, because it's just a bunch of the JSON works perfectly. However, all of the new people that are coming into Firebase immediately say, "Oh, well, let's do Firestore because it's newer." And then I keep sharing, me and another engineer, we keep sharing the same link from, there's a video on YouTube where it sort of says, which one should you use? And honestly, I don't know if I get a lot of clarity out of that. I think you said something that helped me a little bit, which was real-time database is really if you're just writing like crazy. And I don't know if I am. Actually, I know I'm not because, I don't have that many customers. But so anyways, and I don't have any reason really to change from the real-time database to Firestore at this point, I don't think. However, it sounds like if I was starting from scratch, maybe the Firestore is the way to go. And maybe the outlier is the real-time database. Maybe it's only for more specific things that you'd use that. And is it true that Firestore is really the more common go-to database for Firebase right now?
Yes, I would say probably the Firestore is the default you'd want to pick. And think of I can probably try to sum it up in the following decision tree. Like, first question would be, like, are you doing a crazy amount of writes or to the same entity? If the answer is yes, then you're pretty much good with RTDB, because Firestore does not.
Can you quantify crazy amount of writes?
On the same document, so on the same value. That's a key. Like, do you do a lot of overwriting? If the answer is yes, then RTDB is the way to go. The second question is
a lot though. What do you mean, like 15 times a day or 15,000 times a day?
I mean more than one time every second continuously. Like, if you just have a burst of writes, that's fine.
Okay, wow.
But if you write all the time continuously, once a second, over and over and over, then Firestore is not for you. The other question would be, do you have a crazy amount of data you want to store, or a crazy amount of reads, or a crazy amount of people connected at the same time? So if you hit any of those crazies, you're probably better off with Firestore, because real-time database does not scale quite as well. So if you're into the crazy realm of lots of operations, then this is kind of the way you make the decision. Lots and lots of reads all the time, maybe in different ways. Probably Firestore. Lots and lots of documents that just keep growing and growing in size. Probably Firestore. Lots and lots of simultaneous connections in different parts looking for different things. Probably Firestore. Lots and lots of overrides. Real-time database. Okay, so this is on the kind of the capacity side. Now there is another thing to consider on the structure side. So if you only want to write a few simple values, maybe a couple of configuration lines, maybe one object, then RTDB is good for that. And if you want to have lots and lots of entities and you want to organize them in a meaningful way, then Firestore allows you to do that. And a real-time database doesn't. It's just a JSON tree, a JSON document. It's nothing more than that. It's one big document with a bunch of stuff in it, and it's not optimized to be anything else than that. So RTDB is not great if you have lots of different entities, and you don't need to query, and you don't need to read them all the time. Either in its entirety or in big chunks. So this is probably the easiest way to make a decision between those. Also, and the last one, real-time database has some real-time functionalities that Firestore does not come with, like checking, like allowing you to see if a user, when you get disconnected as a callback. There are a few advanced use cases which are documented in our samples and documentation. So if you have one of those edge cases, then you will need to use RTDB. For everything else, I would say Firestar.
Well, thank you for that. It sounds like I should rewrite my app.
Well, if it works for you as is, just keep using it. I have an app that I wrote in RTDB a while ago, and it's not a good solution for it, the RTDB stuff, but it works, so why not?
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Very quickly about security. So why security? Because it's important. And it's very important because we are essentially a serverless solution. That means there's no level in between, no layer in between our customers and the evilness in the world and our data. It's pretty much, it's very close. So what prevents the potentially disastrous things from happening is a security rules in place. That's why it's so important to have some. And we write them in the following way. Essentially, the database is closed from the outside world as a default, and we start opening up little doors. What we do in most of the code labs, we open wide a huge door, essentially allowing anyone to read and write from our database. And in a real product, we shouldn't do that. Like in a real use case scenario, we should just open tiny little doors and allow the reads and writes. That makes sense. So, for instance, this is probably good for prototyping some stuff and maybe debugging things. It's bad for production. Okay. So how do we open these small doors? So the way it works, the security rules essentially cascade. So the way our security rules parser works, it looks at each line in our document, the security rules document, and it just tries to find the fast match that will allow a write to that specific document. And if it finds it, it will stop parsing the document and it will allow you to do that operation. So that's why it's that's essentially how it works. That's why it's really important for you to not open big doors. Otherwise, even if you have more granular rules below, if at least one of the rules allowed access, the access will be allowed. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is when you have collection inside other collections, the rules will not automatically propagate. So, for instance, in this example, if you have some users and you allow anyone to write to them, but you have some posts inside another sub-collection in the user's document, and you don't allow the user to write to it, the write will not be allowed. So the rules will not propagate across collections, which is on purpose. Okay. Okay. Like I said, even if you have a rule that explicitly forbids an operation from happening, if there is another rule that explicitly allows it, the one that allows it will take precedence. Okay. So that's, I guess the best way to think about security rules is think of a security rule as a policy that allows you to do a certain kind of operation, and just make it as specific as possible. For instance, if whenever possible, you should try to use request data inside your rules to limit the scope of operations, particularly for write operations. In read operation, you probably want to use, you also want to use a request to restrict the scope of that read operation to maybe only a certain subgroup of users, or maybe just one user in particular. Okay. Now, after you limited the operation to a certain access to a certain resource or user, one thing to remember is that if you try to read more than you are allowed to, the read operation will fail. Even if in your database there's nothing that would not satisfy your security rule, the way our rules parser works is it makes sure that your rule covers any possible scenario. It doesn't actually read data from the database until after it is assured that the data access is allowed. So you should never use security rules filters. Like in here. So if you want to if you want to get all of the documents inside full collection, and even if you only have one document here that satisfies this rule, this request will fail. So whenever you have a failed read operation, and you have some security rules in place, and it's weird because it should succeed, one thing to check is whether your security rule is maybe a little bit too strict, or your query is maybe a little bit too wide, and they don't match properly. So this is the main thing they want to touch point on the security. Like, rules do not cascade. The access is denied by default, and the rules are not filters. Rules are policies that you are using in order to allow access to a limited number of users to a limited subset of documents, and that's how they should be used. Try to make the scope of each rule as small as possible. Use functions if the rules get a little bit too complicated, and that should keep your database secure and your application logic sane. Okay, that's all I had to tell you about Firestore. I hope it was entertaining. And if there are any last-minute questions, I will be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was so interesting. Okay. And it's so nice to hear from an expert.
I do have a quick question. Did I understand that in the rules, you were showing that there was one rule that was permissive and another rule that was restrictive? And I thought I heard you say that it will always allow permissions if both are available.
Yes, of course. Because the way it works, by default everything is closed down, and as soon as the security rules parsers finds a rule that allows you to access a resource, it stops from parsing the file, and it just allows you to do that. So if you have multiple rules and some of the rules deny access, they won't work. Only the rules that open up access are essentially useful. The deny access rules are essentially just placeholders.
I see.
So
that's
default
one
thing
anyway.
to keep in mind. Yeah, that's the default anyway. So the optimization phase will essentially just remove them altogether from the decision tree.
Okay, that makes sense. I see that now. Okay. There's a question in the chat. Are there any resources on implementing AMP plus Firebase?
AMP as in accelerated web pages.
Anna, do you want to jump in?
I asked this because we had an AMP study jam, and we had a Firebase study jam, and I think that would make a fantastic stack to have the fast AMP pages as on the front and use Firebase as a database.
Okay, so
I don't see much documentation on. I mean, of course, you follow AMP rules and all those, but I just think that would make a fantastic meetup.
Yes. So generally, Firebase can be a great solution for your accelerated web pages. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that Firebase needs an internet connection in order to do most of its data logic. So to fetch fresh data from the server, to save data back, and to run cloud workflows, as in Cloud Functions, doing some useful stuff, this all needs an internet connection. And most of the time when people talk about accelerated web pages is in the context of making them offline available. And while Firebase, particularly Firestore, works well offline, it doesn't have all the capabilities. that it has online. And once you go back online, it will start to propagate the changes, and the merging logic is pretty simple there. Like the change will just be written as they are seen by the server. So that's one thing probably to keep in mind. Whenever using AMP, you want to be careful on how you define your app logic.
No, I mean, I don't think AMP is really offline. They are they're considered more. It started for news publisher, and they're considered more static. But now they have AMP for e-commerce, and you can have dynamic content.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you mean that they're offline? It's not like a progressive web AMP. I mean, you can have AMP and progressive web app where, progressive web app, it can work offline.
Okay. I probably jumped a little bit of the course there. I was mostly.
You mean fetching the data
the
every time may be difficult if you have Firebase and you need to fetch the content many times may be slow, or?
Oh, okay. I think I just misunderstood the question. I think I was thinking about progressive web apps. Now that I'm looking at the AMP components.
AMP is like a HTML framework, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it makes sense. Like there shouldn't be anything.
You have a client side, you can have server side rendered AMP as well, which I guess would matter if you do that with Firebase.
I see. Okay, sorry about that. I definitely was thinking about the progressive web apps.
Yeah, you can have progressive. They call them PWAMP, progressive web plus AMP.
PWA. Yeah. I'm definitely thinking about PWAs, not AMP. To be honest, I haven't worked with the AMP component, with the AMP framework, so I don't really have any stories to tell around.
If it will be a good fit.
Stories. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good to know.
But I think it should be a good fit. Like I don't see why it wouldn't be. Now that I'm looking at the description of AMP HTML. I mean, definitely, if we don't have enough, samples or documentation around that, definitely feel free to suggest more, and we'll probably look into that.
I was thinking to experiment with it, to do like a web app, and to see how it works, because now AMP has become, initially it was for mobile pages, but now it's what they call canonical AMP, so you can have everything in AMP, and it's super fast. It's like a blink of an eye. It's amazing for performance. So not only on mobile, but you can have your entire desktop, everything on AMP. And it's a super solution for speed, because AMP is very strict. It doesn't allow crap custom JavaScript and things that prevent the content from loading. So it's a super solution if you want performance. And who doesn't want performance?
My main concern would be around authentication. I'm looking on it. I don't see a story on how they authenticate users using AMP.
Well, you can log in. Basically, AMP works with components. You just add a component of whatever you want, and let's say you said, "Oh, I want a slideshow," and you say AMP slideshow, and it just works. It's super easy thing that you don't need to update, because it updates itself, and you can have forms, you can have logins. The only limitation is if the functionality doesn't exist, then you can't add custom stuff. But if the functionality for what you want exists, it's a fantastic solution. Very fast, beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. yes, essentially, like my main concern would be then around just talking back to the server, like how easy it would be to implement that without having to go back to using the old classical JavaScript. But I guess if we just if we focus on using AMP for the UI, and then we have some intermediate, some smaller piece that takes care of talking back to the server for the particular use case in which it might not do it directly, then I think it's a pretty good story. Like I said, I don't know AMP well enough to be able to see what would be any potential issues or any potential or any great case studies. But for sure, it would be. I think it would be pretty cool to look into that as a workshop.
Innovative.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, these were all the questions. I'll provide here a link to a playlist. So in case you wanna find, okay. Let me add a HTTPS graphics. There we go. This is a YouTube playlist with more, with a bunch of videos about Firestore. So in case you want to find out more in-depth details about how Firestore works and how to use it for particular workflows, and with great examples and nice talks, this is a great series of videos. I encourage you to check them out.
That's great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's all I have. If there are any no more questions in the chat or live, probably stop presenting now, and I think you're gonna do a collab, yes?
Yeah. Anyways, feel free to jump in at any time if you see that I'm saying something stupid.
I'm sure you'll do great, and I'm really happy you organized this meetup. It's great that you as a community can come together and continue doing cool things, and we try to help whenever we can, promoting Google, and we're looking ourselves into how to continue working with, interacting with the community now that we can't meet in person.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah,
this was really a surprise to have you tonight.
Yeah, I'll try to be here. I still need to go grab dinner, so I'll probably be in and out throughout the evening. So if I don't respond right away, just leave a message in the chat and I'll get back to it as soon as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have other offline questions, you can probably find me easily on LinkedIn or Facebook, and feel free to connect and ask anything you have on your mind regarding Firebase.
Can you share with our attendees in chat your contacts?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll just leave the LinkedIn contact, since that's probably the easiest way to connect.
Okay.
And if you prefer a different social network, you can probably find me by my name on Facebook and a bunch of others.
And Twitter.
And Twitter, yeah. With Twitter is weird because I started using it, and in the last year or so, I kind of stopped using it because I didn't have a lot of public announcements to do. I didn't want to keep the 10th social app on my phone running in the background if I'm not using it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
But I check it out from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So I saw that even Jason, meantime, when he was talking, he was able to.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Jason showed up. Yep.
Jason, you want to say hi, something before we start the lab?
Oh yeah, hi. Yeah, appreciate you guys organizing this and so forth. I'm sorry I joined late. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so I will share my screen now.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Linda, what time is it now? What are we up to next?
Now we have the code lab. We will do a code lab. I don't know if you can see my screen. No.
Yep.
Yeah, but you see something else that I haven't. You see the other screen. 1 second. It's confusing, all these monitors.
So many screens.
Yeah.
That was great. Alex was using his phone as his webcam. I thought that was pretty smart.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so everybody can see my screen, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So now we have the code lab. We will use Stack Blitz. It's an online editor, and Firebase extensions to make a web app fully featured and have our users happy. So last month we went through get to know the Firebase for web, and today we will do the streamline application development with the Firebase extensions. What you will need a Google Dev account. Even if you don't have it, it's not a problem. You can still follow. I will put the link in chat. You can see everything. So you will still be able to follow the code lab even if you don't have an account. You need a Google account. So you know already what is a study jam. We had many last year and this year. So they are community-run study groups for developers. That is a great opportunity to bring members of our community together to learn something in person. But now we do it online. I forgot to change it. These trainings will give our community members a specific skill key to use personal development or advance their career. And these are some of why to attend the Firebase Study Jam. With the Firebase Study Jam, our community members will learn capabilities of using Firebase for developing web applications, share their experience, and solve hands-on problems together. Who should attend? Those who are just getting started with developing web apps for desktop and mobile, and those with programming experience on other mobile app frameworks. If you want to share today anything about the event, these are the hashtags: the GDG, CR, which is the capital region, Women Tech Makers, and Firebase Study Jam. The agenda, we know it. What we will cover: you will discover extensions. We will use the extension for common use cases, how to install and configure an extension in your project, how to maintain, monitor, update, and install extensions in your project. We will also, even if is not mainly focused on, we will use the Firebase authentication to have some security for our app, Firebase real database to save structured data in the cloud and get instant notifications when the data updates, and cloud storage for Firebase to save images in the cloud. So, as I said, I will share with you in the chat the link of the I wanted to, okay. Of the code lab we are going to do together. You don't have to worry. I will walk you through all the steps. You will not need to use your computer to configure anything, because we will use a Stack Blitz, which is a code sandbox in the browser. So you don't really need, and in the end, we will have a raffle. So let's go to close some tabs in here. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the goals of our code lab. In this code lab, you'll add some functionality to an online marketplace app with the help of the Firebase extensions. And you'll understand how extensions can help you to spend less time on app development and management tasks. What you'll build, our online marketplace web app will load images faster to increase user retention, limit entries in your database to improve performance and lower your bill, and implement automatic deletion of old user data to enhance user data protection. What you will learn: how to discover extensions for common use cases, how to install and configure an extension in your project, and how to maintain, monitor, update, and install extensions in your project. And so what you need, as I told you, you need a modern web browser installed. We recommend Chrome and a Google account. So first of all, we will start with setting up the Firebase project. If you have the link of this code lab, you can go to just click quickly on it. Otherwise, I will put in the chat the link for you to be able to access the console, Firebase console. And I will do myself, so you can follow. I already did the project yesterday. I will do it again with you. So if you don't have an account, let's see, does everybody has a Firebase account, or you need some time? I think you can log in with your Google account. Let's see, if I log out, I think you should be able to.
Yes, any Google account should work.
Okay, thank you. I didn't check everything before, so I wasn't sure, but I remember that it should work. So give me just 1 second. I have here some problems. So everybody is in the Firebase console. What we have to do, we have to create a new project. So we will create a new project. You can go and copy the name. If you are good at typing, you can type quickly. I have problems with misspelling things, so I rather copy and paste. So far so good. We can click continue. If I go too fast, please stop me. You can write in chat, and I will try to don't go so fast, okay? So keep in mind here, you don't have to enable Google Analytics, because we will use Stack Blitz to host our app, so we will not go through the analytics. So you can disable here the Google Analytics and click Create Project.
Can you hold on just 1 quick second? I think Mary needs a little bit more time.
So you go in the Firebase console, and after you created your account, and click Add Project. Name it Friendly Market and disable the Google Analytics. We will not need it for this project. My project is ready. And you can click Continue. I will wait for all of you to be ready. If you need me to repeat, please let me know. I can repeat the steps. Let's see. I have the chat. Wait, please. Okay. So you click Add Project, give it a name, Continue, and let's see the chat. It says, sometimes I have this stuff in the top and I cannot read it. Ready. Okay. Mary, are you ready? Can we go? You can make a make a sign with your head, and we know that you are ready. Okay. So the application that we will build uses a few Firebase products available for web apps. Firebase Authentication to easily identify your users. Firebase real-time database to save structured data in the cloud and get instant notifications when the data updates, and cloud storage for Firebase to save images in the cloud. And now we will go to enable all of and configure those Firebase products using the Firebase console, which is this here. We are in the Firebase console. Here is the Firebase console. Can someone let me know if something is written in Skype so to interrupt me in this way? I don't in the chat. In this way, I don't have to go to check.
Yeah, Linda, I'll keep an eye on that. I'll make sure if any chats come through, I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. If you created the project, it will take a little bit to how you call it, to create your project. So don't worry, you will have only to wait a little bit. So next step in our code lab is to go to enable the login. Although, as I told you, authentication isn't the focus of this code lab, it's important to have some form of authentication in our app to uniquely identify our users. So first of all, in the console, we will go to the Develop tab. And in the Develop tab, you have to go in Authentication. And as you see here, it already asks you. Otherwise, you can go directly in sign-in method. But let's set up. I don't know if you can see my screen. I tried to change my scheme from my theme from black to default, and was in the last moment. And
it looks good. I see your dark mode. I don't know if I knew there was a dark mode for Firebase. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know.
It is the Google Chrome. I tried to change it back to the white one. I didn't do it on time, and we started, but next time I will be more prepared. So,
no, it's fine. It looks very dramatic.
Okay, perfect. So what we want to use is the first, it's everybody following, everybody's here. So you go in the console. When it's opening your project, I think you are in here in the project overview. You go in, open this Develop Authentication, and set up a sign-in method. And we will use the email password. And we will enable it. It's kind of difficult for you to see, and I hate it. Next time I have to pay attention to this fact. That presentation. Actually, you can see it. Not very good, but And after you enable it, you click save. We will not use the email link because you can use any fake email to just log in. We will not use nothing real, so don't worry. So click save. Is any message in chat? Everything going to fine? Okay.
Yep, everything's good. Yep, Adam left, but we're still good.
Okay. So after everybody enabled their sign-in method with email password, can we go to the next step? I will go to the, I will stop only if we have somebody saying that to wait, okay? And I will repeat the step. If I see that you don't get anything wait in chat, I will go further, means that everybody is following. So now we will have to go to enable the real-time database. And to do so, always from your left-hand side, the develop tab, you go to click database. And here we should have, you should see this, or choose real-time database. If you look in the instructions, you have this screenshot. So we will use this. So what you have to do, you have to say create a database.
Something interesting is if people were following along earlier, we were talking a little bit about the difference between Cloud Firestore, which is what Alex was talking about, and what we're about to turn on, which is the real-time database, which is something I've been using and have wondered if I should keep using it. So there are two databases that you can use in the database, and it looks like this, we're going to go with the real-time database for this project.
Yeah, we are going this code lab in particular. So all the resources that we will use today, you will not be billed for. They have quotas, daily quotas that are free. Some of the products that we use, some of them they are always free. So don't worry, you will not be billed at all. This code lab is built in mind with for developers that you will not receive a bill after we do all this code lab. So after leave the default one, start in locked mode checked, and after click enable. I hope I don't go very fast. And now it should create. So now we have our database created. It's empty for the moment. We will have, I will go to the next step. I don't see any wait on, so I will go to the next step. We will have to set up some security rules. So next, here always in database, we will go to the next tab. Can you see here in after the data you have rules? Click that, and if you go in the code lab, you should have a snippet. I will copy it and paste it on the chat, but if you have the link, you should be able to just go and copy it and paste it, and I show you where, okay? Okay, now we go in our console and database. You will have to delete what is in there and paste it. And click publish. So far, so good. So now all these rules, it's to secure our database. We want to have some security in place. Of course, in a real environment, you want to do more than what we do today, but for our code lab, this is more than enough. In production, you want to take more security measures, or how do you say it? Okay, so I click publish. And now, so far so good. Everybody is on the same page. Okay.
Looking good.
Okay. So next step, we will want to enable our cloud storage. This is only the backup end part. We only set it up quickly. It's only a few clicks. And after we will start to work in the front end part. So for the moment, let's go to only, so what we did so far, we enabled the authentication UI. We created our real database, real-time database, and we created the rules, security rules for our database. And now we will go to enable the cloud storage where we will save the images of the items for sale in our marketplace app store, okay? To do so, let's go to always here to develop tab. Let's click storage. And here you can click this button, get started. And now we will have only to accept the defaults. We will click next. We will keep the location as is, so don't change it. And let's click done. So now we will have to wait for the bucket to be created. An important thing is for your apps, especially in the production apps, as I told you, it's very important that you secure your storage buckets using security rules. And if you go in our code lab, you should have some links that you can read more about it. I think it's where here you have the documentation, how to do when you go in production. We are not doing production now, so we should be good. Let's see if, okay, everything is set up. So our bucket, it's ready. Let's go to create some rules. So always in develop, storage. Let's go in rules. And from our code lab, we will go to copy these rules that are already written for us, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I will paste them in the chat, but if you have the code lab open in another tab, I don't see nothing on chat here. Okay. So we will go to delete what we have by default there and put our new rules. Basically, we will allow read and write in our data in our buckets. So we want the users to be able to read and sellers to write. I think no, here are for the pictures. So when a seller uploads a picture, we want them to be able to access our bucket. So these are the rules. So now we will click publish. And that's it for the backend. We set up all our backend, and now we should be able to go to work in our front end with our new app. Everybody is on the same page. Everybody finished to set up.
The chat looks empty, but if anyone has a question or anything, either type it in or just jump on the mic and let us know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you are behind, please write wait, and we will know that I can repeat the steps if needed. Okay.
It looks like everyone's keeping up here.
Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next step in our code lab. We will go to open our app. I will copy the link and I will put it in our chat. This is a app ready pre-made for you, for us. So you can go to open it. If you have a StackBlitz account, you can fork it. If you don't have a StackBlitz account, you can sign in with your GitHub account, which I have, and I will do so.
So I can see this taking a few minutes for people to get their credentials sorted.
Yeah, I will wait. So,
yeah, let us, if you can, pop into the chat and let us know that you've been able to sign in, and then we'll know.
So I am signing in. Even if you don't want to create an account, you can still follow. You can fork this project to have it in your account, because what happens with StackBlitz, a project, you cannot edit it unless you fork.
Glenn is noticing that if you do fork it, it's going to take a while for the project to come down. So we probably have a few minutes for people to get their credentials sorted, and then if you do decide to fork it, it's going to download. So that'll take a couple of minutes to get that data down to you, or the code down to you.
No,
anyone have any?
It will be everything on the browser, so it's just 1 second takes. So as soon as you click fork, now I have it in my account. Did you see that the fork button in my side disappeared? So
that's great. Yep. Is this working for everyone? Does anyone have any questions about this yet?
Nope. Just signed in through GitHub.
Okay. So I think everybody should have the project ready in their side. If you choose to not log in with GitHub, you can still fork it. It will say anonymous. You can still share it. You will have a link that is shareable, so you don't lose your work, even if you don't want to have an account. So don't worry. You can follow the steps even without logging in. So, okay, so can I go over to the next step?
Looks like you're set to go. I was just noticing how much this looks like Visual Studio Code. Anyone else notice the similarities there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is really great. Also has Firebase integrated, GitHub. You can connect to the repository that you have. So it's really nice. It's a very nice code sandbox. There are many out there, but for this code lab, we will use this. So first of all, if everybody is in the same page, we can go to start to set up our Firebase project. And we have here a Firebase config.js file here. And you see here that it says to do. We have to replace this code with our own Firebase config file. So I go slow. So now we will go in, I will close this, we don't need it anymore. In our app, if you go in project overview, I think, yes, you should be able to see this. I can even show you actually here. You can see this. So if you click this button, how you call this?
I think that's for a web app. That's the icon that Firebase uses to say, I want this to be for the web. You can see the other two icons are for iOS and Android. And then that last one is for Unity, the game platform. So yeah, we're like you're pointing there, that's the web app, the HTML.
No, I don't know how you call these brackets or something.
Oh, yep.
So please click this web button, sorry. We will go to create our Firebase web app, and we will get the credentials that we need to set up our. So in the project overview, everybody clicked this button. Now let's go to copy, call it Friendly Market Code Lab, our app. Everybody so far? So we will register the app. Don't check that. Okay. So leave unchecked also set the Firebase hosting for this app, because we will not need it. We are using our StackBlitz sandbox, so we will not need to set up a Firebase hosting for this purpose. So now what we have to do, we have the Firebase SDK to add to our app. What we need to copy, it's only from Firebase config until here, where finishes this function. Variable, sorry. We are creating a variable. So please copy only that part.
I'll mention the first time I did this, I was really nervous because these things looked like they were secrets, and I was confused as to why, how come I was pasting them here and making them very public. And it turns out these aren't secrets at all. But it is something that lets your client talk to Firebase. So it lets the web browser app that you're making here, it lets it talk to Firebase, and then this little blurb lets them get sorted, like, wait, which Firebase project and why, and that's what this does. And it isn't secrets. It kind of looks like maybe something like that, but it is okay to just dump this in a public space.
So what we need to do now is we have to go in Firebase config.js file and replace all this code, this constant here, variable. And we paste it, and we should have everything we need to. And here at the top, you have a button, save. As soon as you save, it's connecting with the Firebase, and you should have your app shown in the right-hand side. Does everybody has it so far? So what we can do now, we can go to test this app. So I will use a fake account, a fake email that doesn't even exist, email example. You can do the same, but of course, in real environment, you want to have send a link in the email for your users to. We didn't enable it because we will not use it, and your users will confirm their account, and after they can use your app. So next. Let's say here I will put my real name. Oh, it changed the email. Email example. Okay, let's put a password. Doesn't matter. And save it. I will save it only for two now. So this is our app. Let's, in the Code Lab, you have an image that you can download. I will send you the link. Here it is. So you can go and download the image, and let's create, oh, no. 1 second, I didn't copy it correctly. I didn't meant that. I meant to copy the link, copy link address. So here you should have the picture of a xylophone. I think I already have it. So now let's go to test our app, and we will see the difference between before using the Firebase extensions and after. So now is before. We didn't install any Firebase extensions. So the title, they say here, xylophone. I'll go to do it very quickly. Price, what they say, you can put whatever with 50. Item description, let's copy it quickly. I think I have the picture because I did it, unless I deleted it. And downloads here. Okay. And let's post it. So everybody did it so far? You put your title, price, description, the picture, and
That's a really good deal for a xylophone. I gotta say, if it's in the quality condition that you're showing, I'd pay twice that.
okay, I raised the price. Thank you.
Okay, I'm out. That's too much. Yeah, too much.
So this is our first, and here you can see the seller information. Of course, in a real app, you will not give the seller information. You want them, the users, to click a button, to send an email. But for our code lab, we will not go in all these details. So you can copy the email and send an email to your users. So
has anyone run into a problem? Is anyone struggling on something? You can just jump in on the mic or put in chat. Otherwise, yeah.
Okay, so now we will go to check in our Firebase console the activity. So now we will go back in the console, here in the database dashboard. And we will go in so what I did, I went, you can go project overview, develop, database, real-time database, and we should be able to see the items for sale, which is only one xylophone, and we have one seller, the email, and of course all of the in a real world project in production, you will want to encrypt all the data. You don't want to be available and things like this. I think, I don't know how works Firebase, but we can look into it. Maybe Alex can tell us more, but I work.
Yeah, that's a good question. I wonder, I haven't bumped into that personally. I'd be curious to learn about how to encrypt the data.
Because when I was working with SQL database, we usually encrypted and all the data, and you will not be able to read the data, especially the personal data. You should not be able to read it. But for our code lab, it's just enough. We don't use it in production. Okay. So, and now if we go, so here it's our first item in the database. If we go in the storage dashboard and we go in our, we should be able to see our xylophone image that was uploaded to our storage bucket in the cloud, in the Google Cloud, okay? So now let's go, we will start to use some extensions. But first, we have to discuss a little bit of the problems that we incur when we use our app as it is now. So the problem is, let's say a scenario, after doing some user research, you find that your app, most of your users visit your site from their smartphones, not their desktop, which happens very often nowadays, no? And however, they don't stay, they tend to leave your website, your site very after only a few seconds. So you do some testing to find out what's going on. And what you find is that the images take a very long time to load, and they are not cached in the browser at all, which takes a long time, and the users leave your site. The solution will be to compress these images, right? Because after a seller uploads an image, you may want to resize them to make sure that they load faster. And also, you want to, that caching by default is cloud storage objects have headers that tell browsers not to cache the images, meaning that users' browsers will not re-download, will have to re-download these images and over again. But luckily, you can change these headers to allow caching of the images. And how we do that? Both the client-side cloud storage SDK and the Firebase Admin SDK allow you to set these headers. So to compress images, so there is a long story here. I will try to make it shorter, but in order to compress the images, you can use two methods. One should be your client side, which means that you can put some limits on the images that will be uploaded to your bucket. But this will mean that your users, your sellers, need to resize their own images, which is painful and can be a barrier if somebody doesn't know how to do that. Other solution might be to use the cloud functions for Firebase, that you can trigger a function to automatically resize an image on upload. This means that sellers can upload every image any size and seamlessly resize the image. But it sounds like the server side is the way to go. But this idea still involves cloning the sample, following its setup instructions, and then deploy the function in the Firebase CLI. Resizing images sounds like a great solution if you think of, but there is even an easier solution. Yes, there is an easier solution, and in our help comes the Firebase extensions. There is a catalog. Give me just 1 second to share with you. I think it's in the next page. So there is a catalog. Where is the link? Here, Firebase website extensions. I will send the link quickly to you. Copy link address. So now, finally, we will be able to use the Firebase extensions. Here is the link. If you click that link, it should take you to the Firebase extension store, or I don't know if it's the proper way to call it, but I did it. Here. I want only to make sure that I'm in the same project. Okay, same account, because I have 2 accounts. Okay, so okay.
I had no idea this existed. I followed your link. This is great.
Yeah. So if you look here, you can search for. Yeah, even myself, I didn't know, so I find it really useful when I started to go through this code lab. So you can search for extensions, but if you look here, we already find that there is a resize image extension that we could use in our project. So we will go to click See Details. I hope so. I don't go very fast, but I try to go over everything. So as soon as you arrive here, you can read about it, all the instructions. Of course, if you want to use your terminal, but we will not use it because if you have any problems, we cannot, we don't have enough time to troubleshoot your computer problems. So please use everything in the browser as we do. So click Install in Console, which will take you to the Firebase console. And please click your project. You will have only one. I have two because I already did this. So click in your project. Okay. So far, so good. Any? We click next. And next. Yeah, and in here in the configuration, we will have to, 1 second. Let's go to copy and paste quickly. So in for caching, we want to use this control cache. And we will talk about it, don't worry. Give me just 1 second. Let's go. Where is it? Here. So can you see here at the end, you have cache control header for resized images.
Hey, Linda, I have a question on this. For the, I don't know if you know, for that, the other parameters that are in here, the cloud function location, does it make a difference if it's different than where you have your buckets? Like what location would be? Like, is it storing these thumbnails in a different spot than your bucket location? I'm just wondering for speed. Like if you're not bouncing like servers.
To use your own server, you mean? So, or to don't use the...
No, like when we created our storage, you're creating a bucket and you can pick like which essential like CDN you want to be off of. Like if you had like Asia East or like US East, like how this one has Iowa.
Okay, the region and the zones.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to use, for example, if you have your app, you want to use a region or a zone that is near to your customers or to yourself, because many times you cannot change the setup.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I just didn't know if it made a difference between the two.
Make a difference only when you are in production. Makes a big difference what you choose. Here we do a code lab, so we didn't choose the region. But if you are in United States, your customers are in United States, you want to choose a region that is in United States. Also, there is another solution. There are the you can propagate your data using other GCP products to be cached in other regions all over the world, but you will want to have the region where your project resides. So if you
there's another region for this, or I'm sorry, another reason for this. As you start to add different
that's what I'm getting at is speed between if you start putting a bunch of them in there, because like this one
they should all match, right?
I didn't know if this would end up being a different bucket. Like mine was a different bucket than my full-size images.
No, it will be everything. It will be in the same bucket. As soon as we finish here, you will see you will have your full-size image in code lab, and this resized one in the same bucket. We use the same.
So it's a different bucket. It's the same bucket, but a different location.
No, Glenn, check this out. The difference is where the processing is happening. And if you go, Linda just had that up. What it was saying is, where is the cloud? So she's installing an extension right now.
The function itself. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, there you go.
All right.
So
perfect.
Put behind the scenes, and you don't have to write any code to resize the images. It will resize them, and you will see we will do some setting, and after we will go back and we will reset things only to show you what happens in different scenarios. Okay. So
Glenn, that's a good observation though, because I've personally messed that up.
Yeah, because I know on AWS, like I've messed it up as well, and you can't come back from it. You have to dump it and then create it again, essentially.
And you really don't want to have your cloud function in one region and your data in another because the hopping. And what Linda's showing us is keeping that all in one line. But the question you ask makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So we set up here, I think it's 1 year to keep the images for 1 year. We will go to change this later on, but for the moment, everybody, copying and pasting in chat. So we will say install extension. Give me just 1 second. I'll put it in the chat quickly. If you have the code lab, you should have all of these copy and paste, but if you don't have it open. So now we will have to wait for the extension to get installed. It will take a few minutes. As I said,
so I've never seen this before. Do you know, is what happens here, is there just a new cloud function that's being basically installed, or
the extension? Actually, you can go here and read about, give me just 1 second. In the extension marketplace, you can go to read, but I think there are functions that I don't know if.
But Alex, I mean, I think, isn't the result just a brand new cloud function that sort of pops up in your Firebase project? Is that the idea? Is it sort of just installing a pre?
Yeah, it's like a package that is doing everything. You don't have to worry to write that code.
That's neat. Yeah. Okay. I'll have to try that.
And usually you are billed only if it's triggered. If your app is used, you get billed. Otherwise, you are not billed. If I'm correct.
Yeah, like with resized image, if I started resizing like 1 million images, I'd probably get billed. But if I keep it under that 10,000 something threshold, I'm probably safe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so now we do installing. Oh man, I think I picked the old project that I already had. I don't know. Did anyone got any reconfigure extension? Any errors?
Mine is still loading.
Mine gave me, because I already be aware that permanent.
I got an error on mine too.
Yeah. Yesterday I didn't get any errors. Would be nice to know now how we go to your dashboard in Firebase console. Yeah, but it says that error installing some extension resources might not be deployed. View the error details above to help you retrieve to install. Does anyone else has the same error as me?
Do you know what parameter configuration that was? I'm not following along, so I'm just.
Yeah, it didn't give an error. At first, I thought it was the the size one, but I think that's optional.
Let's see if I.
So mine finished and it didn't show an error at all.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you win.
So resources. Maybe because failure to retrieve function source code, so it's a function. Let me see. Okay, anyways, let's go further because I would like to have everything set up for you guys. Mine, I already finished it. I already have it. I can show you in the other project if this doesn't want to work. So mine is not important to fix it. Yours is important that works. So what we set up here, we set up to retain all the images for 1 year. The only one problem, what happens, your bucket will start to fill up with lots of images and your bill will go up, up, up. So you will not want to have these images high resolution stored in your bucket and pay for. So the solution here, what it will be, so here is what I was saying. They will be kept for 1 year, okay? So what we want to do now is to update the client code. So we want to go in our stock blitz and change this Firebase refs file with the code below. Okay, so let's go in here. This is the file, and I will show you. So everybody has this Firebase refs.js file. We go in here and we copy this function, and I show you what we have to replace in our code. It's just the first one function, the first function here. Okay. We get each function, paste, save. Please let me know if I go too fast. And now we will go to test it out. So I will have only to send you a link of a picture. You can put any picture. It's not necessarily to use these ones, but just in case you want to follow along, here you can download the picture. And I will go quickly in my app. And save. I will refresh it. Should be able to see my. Oh, I cannot see the. I have to. Okay. So you have to click the logo, Friendly Market, because I went in the product, so that's why we don't see the sell something. Let's try it. That now we installed our resize extension. We want to test it to see how it's working. So I will copy quickly. The new product will be a coffee with a bear. It's $1. The description.
I hope you priced this more fairly.
If not, I put it $10 because it has a bear.
You know your audience.
Let's go quickly to grab our picture. And this is it. So we have our other product. Let's say post. Click post. Now we should be able to see our two products. What we could do now is to just refresh a couple of times, and we should be able to see a difference that the second picture should load faster than the first picture, but maybe that here in the browser will not show really. In the code sandbox will not really show that way. But
why is that, Linda? Why are you expecting the one picture to load faster?
Because the second picture, the coffee picture, we resize it using our extension. And now we will go in our console and check out. So, mine doesn't work. I have to use the other one that I used yesterday. Let's see if it worked. So let's go in functions. Maybe that mine didn't work. So yeah, functions.
Okay, that's neat. That's right there is pretty cool. I'm used to seeing functions in there, and I see that the one that you've added has the ext at the beginning of it.
Okay, mine didn't work. You know what? I will switch project. I'm sorry, guys. I have to show you it's working. So I will switch project. Give me just 1 second. I will switch quickly the project that I did yesterday, if I can find it quickly. Oh no, stock blitz here, stock blitz here. In the box. Oh yeah, so should be yesterday, this one. I will use this one, guys. Okay. Sorry.
Linda, it looks like when you use an extension, the code is out of touch, right? What I'm seeing is it kind of looks like when you use an extension, it sort of installs that cloud function in Firebase.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, maybe for better, I don't see a way to like manipulate that code, so I can't break it. And maybe someone else is maintaining it. But this idea that there's this extension of like make an image smaller, and I can't go in and mess it up. I just select to use it or not. Does that seem correct?
Yeah. Anyways, you can if you look in Code Lab, you have even the option to create your own function or just copy a demo, but it's more painful. This is the easiest way if you don't want to mess up too much with development and things like this. But otherwise, here you have a sample. If you go, it's here, the server side. Here you have a sample, and you can follow the setup instructions, and you can do it. You can develop your the function yourself, and it will do the resizing. So here is the sample of code. Give me just 1 second. And you can go through the function samples. So generate thumbnails, and you can go and follow all the instructions and do it yourself. Using the extension, you don't have to mess up with all this stuff, and you can just dive in. If you, for example, not everybody is a developer, not everybody works in the server side. There are people that they work in the front end. They don't want to mess up with the back end. This is the easiest
or
way.
if you've done it 10 times on other platforms, you don't want to do it an 11th time. And this is a great way to just bring in some sort of resizing thing. That's great. This is awesome.
Mm-hmm. So you should be able to go. So I jumped in my old project from yesterday. If you go here in project overview, develop functions and logs, you should be able to see all the activity. So you should be able to see when your function fired. Here I even deleted by the end. So function execution started, and you should see all the steps logged in here. Okay. Now, if we go in the storage, always project overview, develop storage, we should be able to see our latte picture that now it's resized by 200 by 200. Why? Because if you look in our code, we specify that this picture has to be resized to have the dimension y, x and y 200 and 200. Okay. So here is our picture resized. Let's see if, okay, so this is my project from yesterday. I will try to log in quickly with my fake account. And okay, save. Okay, so perfect. Now let's go. So we checked that we have the function fired. So our extension is working, not in the new project that I created today, but yesterday worked everything perfect. Usually when you have to show somebody, things doesn't work. Okay, so that's the case. So now here we should be able to see if we reload. Did you see that the coffee picture came faster than the xylophone? Try it in your app.
I did see that. I was surprised. I wasn't sure if the stream would mess that up, but yeah, definitely. I'm seeing the...
Yeah, somehow. But anyways, you see that the coffee is there and it's like flashing. The xylophone picture is coming. So this is the way you can check it out.
Linda, the idea there is, like that time I just saw it. The idea there is, right, the coffee image is ready and nothing's happening to it. It's just being loaded. But the xylophone image, like there's some sort of processing on the client side that's resizing it, and that's why it's taking that extra second to be the right size. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the xylophone app is not picture is not resized. It's still in our database. If you look in the database, the xylophone is not resized. We have only this picture resized. The latte picture is resized.
Chad, if you look at the console on that too, you can see where it's trying to fetch like a resized image of it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then it can't find it.
So it does the
So
work.
it used the default one. So it's not technically resizing it. It seems like it just knows to call the smaller version on some, and then if it can't find it, it goes to the regular.
Okay.
So now we can reconfigure our extension. The problem is that our app auto-saves versions of sellers' listings. Your users like this feature, but your sellers starts are a bit worrying. The stats are a little bit worrying. Your report says that only about 10% of the drafts are actually posted, and the other 90% are just taking up space in your database. So the solution here is to use another Firebase extension called the limit child nodes extension to automatically keep the number of saved drafts at 5 or fewer. We don't want to have unlimited drafts piling up in our database. So the extension will delete the oldest drafts whenever a new draft is added. So let's go. I will send you quickly a link here. Copy link address that you can open the, where is the Firebase extension store. Yeah. And I will close the other ones that we don't use. Okay, this is my old one. Okay. I will pick my old project, but that's okay. So here we will use this limit child nodes, install in console. I might have problems. I don't even know what's my old project. This one, what is, this one is called here. Where can I see quickly the name of this one? Project overview, project settings. I thought it because has added to at the end some. I will use this one. I think this one is the old one, the new one. So what you do here, we will install this other extension, and we will say next. And in the real-time database path here, we will write that we want to keep maximum 5 nodes. So you should have, say, next to all of this until you reach the configure extension, and in the maximum count of nodes to keep, say, 5, and click install extension. I'm going because it, and here in the path, oh, I didn't configure. Yes, I should have it configured. Database. 1 second. Where is the? Did I skip a? No, I didn't skip any. We have to say drafts. We want to be saved in drafts. Okay. Sorry about that. So in real-time database path, put drafts and maximum count of nodes, install extension. Yeah, I picked the right project, is the one that is messed up. So it should install this extension. Anyways, to show you, I will use the other project. Now this one is not working yet. So did everyone? It will take some time to install the extension. It says between 3 and 5 minutes. Also,
I know I've had that experience a lot with Cloud Functions, right? It takes actually, this is something Alex and I were chatting about before he gave his presentation, was that one of the things about developing Firebase Cloud Functions or even Google Cloud Functions is it's kind of difficult to test them locally. So whenever you hit deploy, which is what we're doing now, you're definitely stuck with 2 minutes before 3 minutes before you'll see that change available. So be aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, as you sometimes you may want to uninstall extensions. So to remove an extension from your project, you might be tempted to delete the individual function that an extension creates, but this can lead to unexpected behavior, since one extension may create multiple functions. So here in the documentation, you can learn how to do that by uninstalling these extensions, because when you uninstall, it deletes all the resources like functions for the extension and the service accounts created for that instance of the extension. So keep in mind, if you need to uninstall any extension, here is in the documentation in the lab, you have the documentation link to go to figure out how to do that, okay?
Linda, you're right. This really does work a lot like packages, where you kind of let Firebase do the magic of installing and uninstalling. And if you get in there and try to do it, the details yourself, you might get in trouble.
So you should have now the new extension installed. I will not use this app to show you because I don't want to waste time. So now what we can do, we can go to refresh our app, our store. And this is not necessary for you to do it. I will do it. I will create only some drafts. So I will call it draft 1 to show you that after the 5th draft, all the others will be deleted. So I create draft 1. I don't post it. It's just a draft. So, sell something, draft 2. So you see here at the bottom we have draft 1, right? Go back to the market, create another, draft 3. Only to check if it's working our extension, draft 4. You don't have to do this, it's only to show you. And draft 5, and as soon, so we have draft 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And as soon as we will create a new draft, all the others will be, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we should, the draft 1 should disappear, okay? So as soon as we go here, we have, it didn't. Yesterday was working perfectly. Okay, draft 1, draft 2. So actually this one should disappear, something, let's see. Oh man, it's just like, you know, no, it didn't. Oh, that's okay. So did for anyone work this? Starts to annoy me. That doesn't work in my end now. Maybe that I'm still using the project from today. No, I have this. I have this from yesterday. Basically, if everything works good and when you show someone things doesn't work, so basically what should happen, this one should disappear. Let's do one more. Did we? Okay. Oh. Okay. Let's keep going because we have another 20 minutes and I wish that you get going through all the lab. So what happens, the limit of drafts to keep is too small. So what happens now, we want to raise the number of our drafts. So we have to go to reconfigure our extension. In order to do so, you click in the Firebase console, and here at the bottom, you can see that it says extensions. If you click in the extensions, we can go in our extension, child node extension. Mine will be already, yours should be have only 5. You should increase it to 50,000. So instead of 5, you that's why it's not working, because mine was, okay. That's why it was not working, because mine was already raised to 50,000. Makes sense. And you should say somewhere, save or reconfigure extension. You should click reconfigure extension after you click here 5. Now, if I change this to 5 and I reconfigure extension and I go to tested, you'll see that the draft 1 will disappear. Makes sense, okay? Did everybody get it? Reconfigure extension?
Yeah, that's great. That's how you can work with an extension. Like you wouldn't get into the details of the Cloud Function. It has some very neat parameters there for you just to adjust and then hit save on.
Yeah, and you click.
Linda, when you hit save now or cancel, whichever.
Yeah.
We will still see this extension inside of functions. Is that right? And it'll have the EX like prefix to it.
Yeah, when you use the logs, when starts to, if you look in the log, if you look, because I have another extension, I want to go quickly over that one to delete the user data. So when it fires up, you should see all your functions here when they fire, what they do as soon as they. So you should have all the logs in here, yeah. And here you should have all the, so I have the limit child, the resize image, and the delete user, which we will go over now, okay?
That's great.
So another problem that we face now, if, for example, a seller wants to delete their account, the products are still up, and the users can still send them emails. So we will want to use another extension that will automatically delete the user data. So to do so, here, we will use, let's go to the next step. Luckily, we will do it on time. We will use this extension, and you can go to read over all of this. I don't really have time. I really want you to get the most of this workshop, so I will copy the link. We will use the delete user data extension. I hope so. I copied the right thing. Okay, paste. Yes. So if you click in that link, it should take you again in the Firebase extension store. I don't know if they call it that way. I call it that way. So click always install console. Choose your project, which is, this is the one, my messed up project. And you will say next. And configure extension, review the, okay, next. Firebase, oh, okay. I think it's in the next step. Here, you have to go to set up your seller ID to be deleted from the real-time database. I will paste in chat. So here, so Cloud Firestore path, you will want to use seller / curly braces UID. And, oh no, sorry. I apologize. Should be in a real-time database, if I'm not wrong, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the real-time database. I apologize. So real-time database, you want to put this path that you want to be deleted and click install extension. And now it should take a few minutes to install the extension. And we will go to test our other project that is working. In order to see it in action, what we will do, we will go into our database. So Firebase project overview, develop database. We go in our real-time database. We should be able to see here all the products. Here are all the drafts, our projects, and we want to go to, cannot see here, hide, okay. We have only one seller. I will delete myself. So if you go here, no, actually I have to go in the dashboard. Not here, sorry. I have to go in authentication. I'm sorry, I messed up everything. So here we have 2 users. And if you, so develop authentication, not database, I'm sorry. Authentication, users. And here you can right click and say delete. And as soon as you delete it, it should disappear this user. And it did. So now, if we go in the store, that person should not be available. Okay, it's only me. Oh, okay, yeah, it deleted. I don't have any more of that one. Actually, what I did, Okay, this was the one, the test. The seller has deleted their account. Did you see? So what I did, I created another account, test account, and I put an item for sale. And now when we went to delete their account, it says that you cannot have access anymore to their data to contact them. Okay. So as I told you, you will not be billed for this. No billing. It's using the free quota available. Of course, in production, you here you have more documentation how you can do it in production. This was only to show you. Of course, users don't have access to your database, real-time database. I was saying correctly. Okay. You will have to implement more to make them to delete their account. We did it only from the server side. You want to work to make an implementation for your front end for the users to be able to delete their accounts. But this is only doing it from the server. We did it today. So if you reach all the way here, congratulations. And if anyone from my team wants to take over so I can take a break to announce our raffle, if anyone can take the names on the chart to put it.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yep. So I think the idea is this, right, Linda? Is that if you're in chat and you've lasted this long, congratulations, thank you. We have a something called the wheel of names. And what you do is we will put names in there, and we will spin the wheel. You can see Linda's pulling up the screen now, and so I think it's the name that we're looking for.
No, I don't know.
Is that right, Linda?
Yeah, it's wheel of names.
Yep, but that's okay. So if you want to win something, go ahead and put your name in the chat. It's as simple as that. And then we're going to follow the chat. We're going to look at the chat, and we're going to start. Linda, or one of us, it looks like she's working on it now. We'll start typing your names into the wheel. There's the wheel, right?
Someone has to do it. Can you do it, Chad, or somebody else? Can you do it?
Let me see if I'll try this. Yeah, let's see
or
if
Fausto or Jason. What we will have, give me just 1 second. Give me just 1 second if I can stop presenting. Can everybody see me?
I can see you. Yep, we can see you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're holding. I see you holding prizes. Is that right?
Yeah. So we will have 2 Google Nest Mini as prize. So who wants to participate in this?
I do, but I can't.
Raffle, please put your name on the chat, and we will.
Looks like we have 3 interested parties.
Yeah. And this way, we want to make sure that everybody pays attention. And we have a feedback from attendees. If you want to fill it up, I put the link in the chat. I don't know if it's working. Let's see.
Oh, yep, we see. Well, let's see. So far, I see that Jay. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm still going through. Oh my gosh, so many messages.
Okay. So if you can click this link, I will put it again. Maybe this time it will be. This is going directly to Google, doesn't go to us, this form. So we will really appreciate the Firebase team would like to know what you learn, if you liked it. So if you would like to,
Linda, I see Mary and I see Anna, and I see Glenn and Keith.
Yeah.
Keith.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
far, it's 4.
Yeah, if others didn't pay attention to our raffle, I don't know. Who is
Glenn,
there?
do you want? Glenn, you don't want in on this action?
Yeah,
Oh no, I
Glenn.
think Glenn, no,
Yeah,
Glenn's in
yeah,
there. No, never mind. My bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm acting him out. Look at that.
Ah.
Terrible.
Okay,
Terrible.
so let's put
I think Chad, you should share your screen. Just
yeah,
to-
can you
so we
share
can
it?
all see.
Yeah.
Here I go.
So this is the prize.
All right.
Oh,
Well, I don't have
look
spinning
at
wheel.
that.
Linda, you have the wheel, right? You have the winning wheel.
Ah, I didn't send you the link.
Okay. Okay. Let me click on that. Hold on. Please stand by.
Can you share your screen, please?
I will. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Almost there.
We like your studio there behind you.
Live from the Chad Studios.
Okay.
All right. So I have the wheel. All right. I'm gonna jump back over and present that screen. I hope. We'll see. All right.
No? If not, I will do it. If you give me the names in chat, I will copy and paste it quickly on my. But can you put all together so I don't have to put one at a time?
All this green screen technology is, interfering.
Okay, let's.
Hold on. I'm almost there, though. I'm almost set.
Yep.
Very close.
I'll try to do
It's the Chad News Network.
And we have another name that I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sorry.
All right, here I go. Now.
Okay, I got it.
Oh, do you have it? Okay, if you beat me to it, that's perfect.
Yeah, give me just a second. I want only to share my screen quickly, so we don't take the window here. Okay. Okay, can everybody see? So you have lots of chances to win because there are not so many people that.
Yeah, I like these odds.
These odds are great.
Yeah, we're
Let's do the first winner. I'm spinning the wheel right now.
Oh, the drama.
Oh, Glenn.
Mary, Glenn. Oh, who is it? It's Glenn. Hey. So close, Mary. You were so close.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's shuffle.
All right.
Let's click the second winner.
Oh, it's
Okay, so
Yeah, like she said, wow.
we need our winners to contact us in private. You can contact us through Meetup, send a private message, and send your address so we can send over the prizes to you.
Also, I think if you didn't win this time, that's a better chance of you winning next time if you come to our next event.
Yeah. Actually, can I do a small announcement very quickly?
Yeah, 4 minutes.
Quickly. So what we have next is our AMP study jam. We contacted Ben, which is a developer advocate at Google, and he will be here to help with the study jam. And also we have our International Women Day. So May 12th we have AMP Study Jam, and May 23rd we have the International Women Day. And we have some speakers that you might like to hear from them. So please join us.
Hi, I wanted to say thank you. I love the lab. I completed it. I didn't know about the extensions. Super helpful. So I'm very happy to join today. Thank you. It was super. I think the less people, the better, because you can pay attention to everybody, make sure everybody is going at the same pace, answer every question. So, great job.
Can we do a grid view with, I would like to have a picture with the grid view with all the participants. Oh, thank you, Chad, for doing so. Is everybody in here? I think so, yeah. We lost some participants in meantime, but we made it until the end. Alex, thank you so much. If you are still there and you want to say a few words in the end, please feel free to join. You can unmute yourself if you want to say goodbye or say something. Everybody can.
Oh, thanks, Alex.
Yeah. Hey,
we
the
made
fire
it.
is out already, so.
Oh, the fire's out.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, probably 10 minutes ago. It's just.
The pillows are still there, so that's good.
The fellows.
How's the fire?
Yeah.
Still the fire?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it for being here with us. And I will contact, actually, I know Mary, and I can contact, I hope so I can contact you in Meetup to have all your data. If not, please feel free to contact us. Thank you, Yasif, or how you say your name? Can you unmute yourself, Jason? Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, it's Yaki. So like, yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm still here. Unfortunately, at my house, it's my daughter's 21st birthday, so it's pretty loud. The people are coming in and out. The dogs are barking, and they're having a dance party downstairs. So I've been trying to stay focused, but it's been kind of a challenge.
Happy birthday!
I'm really glad we have such great people to kind of help bring things along. We have such great organizers. It was super cool. So. But yes. I'm going to go back on mute just in case anything breaks out.
We don't hear any dance party right now.
Yeah, we're in a lull period. It was pretty bad about 2.5 minutes ago, and it could happen at any moment. So
sounds like fun.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much, my team. Thank you so much, all attendees. I really appreciate it, and all our winners.
Are we done? Is that it?
I think
yes.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess we're done.
Yeah, we're end the call. End the call.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
See you next time.
Have a great evening.
All right. If I hang up.